Hello, I'm James Daganixon. Welcome to Media Week. Ahead on the program today, we'll get you across all the ratings. Just how is Rio paying off for Seven? Also, News Corp CEO Robert Thompson's been in town talking print. Just what does he think its future is? And we get a sneak peek at the first episode of Australian Survivor. All that coming up. And of course, my co-host, James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, here to take us through all those stories, plus plenty more. But first, Jerry Reynolds, Managing Director at Medium Rare Content Agency and publisher of the new David Jones magazine, Jones, joins us here in studio. Jerry, really appreciate you joining us today.
Lovely to be here.
We've got a copy which we'll show in a minute. It looks great. What's brought it about?
Well, as I think we're just speaking of off-air, brands have basically become the new media players, the new publishers. Brands, whether that's David Jones or whether it's Qantas or whether it's Coles, have insights into who their customers are. They want to have a conversation with the customers. They want to engage the customers, and they want to engage them emotionally. And content allows them to do all that, which then sort of takes them from the inspirational right through to the purchase. David Jones is not dissimilar to a lot of retailers around the world who see content as a way to speak directly to their customers. You'll notice that a lot of online retailers actually have print magazines these days, such as Net-a-Porter and ASOS, etc. So, you know, I'm a little bit hesitant to speak on behalf of David Jones, but at the end of the day, they know who their customers are. They know information about the products. They know information about style. They know trends, etc., etc. How do they have an emotional relationship with their reader, with their customer? How they can do it is through content, and content can be given to the customer in various means. One of them is the magazine that we've launched. That's accompanied by an app that's updated weekly, plus content on their website, plus content on their EDMs, etc., etc. It's a way to keep a conversation going with their customer.
Is that a relatively new phenomenon, the idea of having a sort of an emotional connection, this relationship with customers, as opposed to just sort of talking at them or selling at them?
Yes and no. I mean, broadly speaking, I guess, very simplistically, advertising is talking at your customer. Whereas content is allowing your customer to discover information. It's not a completely new phenomenon. Custom publishing has been around for a long time. Qantas magazine has been around for 95 years. It's just got a lot more sophisticated because corporations now have their customers' email addresses. They got data about them. They know a lot more information about them. They can develop content more knowingly on the needs of their customers. They know their touch points. They can only do it if they're actually in an area where they have perceived expertise. You can't just give content for content's sake. So with David Jones, their buyers go to all the shows. They know what the trends are. They know the inspiration. They can tell you how to style. They can tell you what to mix and match. So they have that information. Their customers want that information. And what makes it more sophisticated and probably more prolific at the moment is that you join sort of old school custom publishing with new school social media, websites, EDMs, beacon technology, where you can go in store and get a push notification to give you some information, and then it becomes a lot more sophisticated. And then you can get that data and analytics from how the customer responds, and then you can refine and redefine the content to make sure it actually works better next time around.
Wow.
Jerry, you've got an impressive portfolio. You work with some big brands. Maybe tell us about who else is in the stable, and tell us, maybe without giving away some of your business secrets, is there a financial win for that brand in partnering with you, or is it just a self-funding extension, you know, of their brand to the customer
for the brand
base? Yeah.
Well, I guess first thing to say is that it's a marketing exercise for the brand. Different brands will have different purposes, but we are in 2016, and everything we do has specific KPIs around it. It'll vary from client to client. Qantas content started as entertainment, as a way of providing travel inspiration for the passenger, but nowadays you tie that to the frequent flyer point program, you tie it to their website, etc. It can now be a way of connecting inspiration to actually bookings. With a client like Coles, ultimately it's driving people into Coles to purchase product. With a client like David Jones, it's about, again, providing the inspiration, the connection to ultimately drive sales via online or via in-store. So when it comes down to the dollars from the client, there's a direct connection It's not a feel-good exercise. It's about engaging the customer, keeping the customer loyal above all. That's really what it's about. And you know yourself, it's a lot cheaper to keep the customer than to gain a new one. And to have a direct impact on sales. And something like Jones, when you tie it to their loyalty card, you can track the sales of products from the loyalty card members who engage in content versus the loyalty card members who don't engage in content. And I know from historically, from our other clients, that the percentage differences can be phenomenal. They can be anything from 50 to 75%. And therefore, it's an investment in marketing that leads to an increase in sales, a return on investment. Everyone wants a return on investment, and we exist at Mediaware to provide that return on investment one way or the other.
Yeah, so you've got David Jones, you do Coles, you do Qantas.
Yep, we do Foxtel magazine, Visit Canberra, and a variety of others. Mediaware has been up and running.
Relatively new, isn't it? You haven't been around long.
Yeah, we've been around just a little bit over 2 years, actually. July 4, Independence Day. I remember that.
What sort of scale are we talking about in terms of the reach of some of these publishers, as you say, which are dominated now by brands?
Quite phenomenal. And David Jones magazine will go out to 250,000 people. 120,000 are mailed out to the highest spending Amex David Jones card holders. The rest are available in store. That's pretty much a guaranteed circulation of 250 for what is in effect a fashion magazine.
Wow.
Marie Claire is the biggest selling consumer fashion at 80,000. Coles magazine has a certified readership of 3.5 million.
3.5 million?
Per month.
What?
That's just the magazine. The content we create for the magazine, which is essentially recipes, then also gets seeded out on Facebook. Or we shoot video while we're doing it at the same time. We put it up on YouTube. Coles have an association with taste.com.au, which is the #1 site in Australia. So we can do one piece of content, create a recipe that we know from analytics that the customer is actually searching for, shoot it photography-wise, shoot it video-wise, do a video hack for social media, send it out through social media, pushing them to YouTube, pushing them to Taste, pushing them to online shopping. Before you even get to the catalogue, before you get to above the line, which can happen, say, with Coles, because this is actually bringing content associated with sponsorships, et cetera, pretty much guaranteeing that every piece of recipe that Coles creates is going to reach 6 or 7 million people.
That's extraordinary.
But you were comparing the magazine, you mentioned Marie Claire thing. I'm sure some of the publishers and editors of those magazines would say, look, it's not a fair comparison. I mean, is this more like an advertorial? I mean, is this a real magazine that stacks up well, do you think, as a read?
Yes.
Beside, if you go...
You haven't read it, obviously.
Well, no.
Or you're not the target market?
I understand that, but some people might think that, look, OK, it's mailed out to the customers of Coles or the customers of David Jones. It's going to, say how great those stores are, and maybe not as, the editorial mightn't be as, I don't know, trustworthy as...
I take your point, and I'm not trying to disparage consumer publishing. I come from consumer publishing, and I'm all in favour of it. But that's not a direct comparison. It's not fair to say that they don't compare. The people who we have working on these magazines come from consumer publishing. Probably versus consumer publishing, we know the customer an awful lot better because our clients know the customer. They've got really detailed data about the customer. So when our editor of John's Dead Bibby, who came across from Reliving, is planning what goes into the magazine, she's planning it on a number of things. She's planning what's going to be available in store. She's planning on what she knows the customers actually want, and then she's adding trends and creativity around that to engage the customer, which is pretty similar to what a consumer magazine does, except probably with more data about the reader and probably more insights about what's actually going to be in store. Now, the difference is it's around fashion, beauty, homes that's going to be available in David Jones, whereas a consumer magazine will probably be a bit broader and aren't focused on where the product is actually going to be available. Jones still has the same editorial outlook, and if you go through the magazine, it's not a catalogue. It has editorial inspirational content, it has trends, it has how-tos. Yes, it does have product, just like a consumer magazine. But it has the sense and sensibilities of a consumer magazine. And yes, they're not directly comparable, but I think it'd be unfair to say it's not in the same ballpark. And that's issue one. And I would hope, if we're talking again in a year's time, I'd like to say categorically that the content does compare with the best fashion magazines.
What's the market like for gaining advertising in these sort of these brand publications?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, if I look back at the last year, where we're unusual at Medium because we don't just do content strategy and content production and amplification, but we also provide media sales services for the clients if the client reckons that that's a good fit for their brand. If I look back in the last year, advertising revenue for our Qantas platforms, for Foxtel, for Coles, have all increased year on year quite substantially. Revenue on Coles has increased probably in the 40% mark, in Qantas by about 15%, where the entire magazine market has gone backwards.
So advertisers, are they looking to leverage off the distributions, the amount of people who are going to see it, or along the brand alignment with whoever the major...
Both. For starters, brand publications are going to give you a bigger reach. Secondly, they're going to give you a very targeted reach. It's not advertising in a third-party publication hoping that the people you're trying to talk to, you know who it's going to. Then there's the brand allegiance and alliance itself. It depends on, again, the brand and the purpose of the publication. So with something like Coles, the advertisers are likely to be suppliers. Why? They have the same KPIs to sell produce in Coles. With something like a Qantas, the brands are probably getting on board, A, because the audience, it's not just to reach the audience, it's actually a very hard to reach audience through media anywhere else. It's very high ABs, high businessmen, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, they want the brand alignment, and that's when it works well for the advertisers, but also can work very well for the host brand, i.e. Qantas and Coles in that case.
Jerry, is this the future of publishing? I mean, are we going to see, eventually all the major brands will have pretty good magazines, but you won't be able to, there will be maybe not much else on offer? I mean, long term, I guess.
I don't think so. By the way, all the major brands do have platforms. It's not the future, we're in the future. Seriously, you look whether they know it or not.
You'd like to get on your books, I guess, maybe.
Sorry?
There's probably a few out there who haven't gone down that track that you're probably
No, I think all major brands are producing content. They're maybe not doing it as sophisticated as some of our clients, or they may not seek an agency like us to actually do it for them. They're actually doing it themselves.
In-house.
Look at the amount of content that Telstra produce. They do it themselves, whether that's video, whether that's content on their website. So all brands are producing content and speaking to their customers and getting into very sophisticated amplification methods. I guess what the space we're in is helping them strategize, helping get all their stakeholders on board, helping planning it based on data, helping deliver premium content to an agreed plan, curating it for their own channels. There's a whole other part of content marketing, which our clients do as well, whereas you take that content and then try and get earned media out of it through social or paid media on third-party clients. It's proliferating like anything, to your point. Will that increase? Yes, most definitely. Will it increase to the detriment of consumer publishing? I don't know. I think it has to have some impact, but it'll depend on the quality of the content that's being provided at the end of the day. I mean, we could produce a magazine for Jones, we can produce an app for them, but if the content isn't what the customer wants, I mean, I've talked about the pluses. The big hurdle when you produce a magazine like Jones, to your point about Marie Claire, is when the customer receives it, they're going to go, this is from David Jones. So the content, in a way, has to work harder and be better. If it is, then the brand allegiance will be there, and then I think you'll see greater proliferation.
All right, look, we have to leave it there. Jerry Reynolds, fantastic insights. Really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at all the ratings for week 33. Stay with us.
The essential read for every manager and executive is What I Didn't Learn at Harvard. If anyone could have written about lessons from remarkable real-life experiences, it's Rob Redenbach. A former Australian soldier, Rob went on to provide protection for aid workers in Iraq and Afghanistan. study at the world's most prestigious university, and work with major corporations and world leaders. For close to 20 years, he's travelled the globe inspiring organisations, improving business performance and helping managers become leaders. What I Didn't Learn at Harvard is essential reading, and if you've got more than 15 employees, the book is available absolutely free at redenbach.com. Rob wrote the book as a way of showing how his experiences, from war zones to boardrooms, could help anyone rise to the challenges of business and life. An incredibly engaging read. It's packed with compelling insights into leadership and strategies to reach peak performance. To order your free copy of What I Didn't Learn at Harvard, go to redenbach.com today.
The Audi A3 Runout is now on. Purchase the Audi A3 Sportback with style and technique packages from only $41,000 drive away. The Audi A3 Runout. Timing is everything.
Selling property comes with so many questions.
How do you find a good agent?
How do you find an agent you can trust?
The answer is very simple.
Open agent.
Open agent.
Open agent.
Using Open Agent takes the risk out of selecting the wrong agent.
You've got to get a great agent if you want top dollar.
The agent they recommended was so caring and professional.
They shortlisted the 2 best agents for us.
They made it easy.
They listened and found us an excellent agent.
Selling with the right agent means less stress and could add up to a $40,000, $50,000, even $100,000 difference on your sale.
He sold our house in just 1 week for a good price.
And the price we got was well over our reserve.
Simply type in your postcode to get started. Compare real estate agents in your area and choose the right agent for you. It's 100% free for sellers.
I'm so glad I talked to Open Agent first.
Visit openagent.com.au or call us on 13 24 34.
Make your Super Dad's Day at Golf Box. Callaway gloves 6-pack now $49. TaylorMade set of 8 irons half price $4.99. Ashworth shoes just $99. Or make Dad's Day with a Golf Box gift card. Now at golfbox.com.au.
The streets are alive with the sound of chooks.
Find out all about raising chickens in your own garden or balcony.
Seriously?
Truly. And you get these for free.
Bonus.
I know.
And we'll be talking with comedian, performer and, as it turns out, architecture enthusiast Tim Ross.
Live from his performance space at the contentious Sirius building. Seriously.
And we are joined by a cabinetry genius.
Cupboards are so cool.
They are. The next Sky News Real Estate.
Hi there, welcome back to Media Week. Of course, my co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, joins me on set to some of the news items of the week. News Corp CEO Robert Thompson in town. What's he been talking about?
Yeah, look, a really busy week on all angles. Okay. Robert Thompson was out here. They reported not long ago. He was there in New York going through the results of all the analysts. Hopped on a plane back to Sydney here. He was here for the News Awards at the end of last week. That's the internal awards that News Corp have, and he gave out some of the big prizes there. And then he was talking to staff on the floor this week, I think in the Daily Telegraph in particular, but maybe elsewhere in the business too, about, I guess, some of them are, you know, concerned about the company's commitment to print when they hear Greg Hywood talking about, you know, look, Fairfax will possibly going to stop. I mean, Greg Hywood's defence, he's not out there saying it all the time. It's a question he gets badgered about all the time, but he has been admitting, look, we think we'll stop eventually on the weekday print production. That's a subject news haven't really discussed at all, not publicly. I'm sure there's a business model in there somewhere about what would happen if we stop production of the weekday papers. But you pick up your Daily Telegraph, your Herald Sun on a Friday. There's a lot of advertising in there. So look, it's still a good business model for them, and they're not about to stop weekday production.
We had Gourmet Traveller Restaurant of the Year Awards. Neubauer CEO hosting it, was it?
Yeah, look, Nick Chan, it's his first public outing. He's only been in the job 5 weeks. There's a bit of footage there last night. One of your hard-working reporters was out there, James.
We're everywhere.
Yeah, you are. Momofuku, I think I get that right. Not a place.
Careful.
Not a place we dine often.
Neil Perry.
I don't think, but yeah, he's Rockpool. They published the top 100, and I think is there 3 rock pools? I think Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth.
They're closing down. They're opening up. They're all over the place.
They all got into the top 100. I think his highest entry was at number 11. But yeah, look, it's Gourmet Traveller, new issues out now. Their restaurant guide comes with that edition, so if you're a bit of a foodie, it's a really good issue to get. The magazine, this is about the I don't know, there have been 20-odd awards. The magazine celebrates its 50th anniversary this year, and Nick Chan said...
long?
Yeah, 50 years. And Nick Chan said, look, there's going to be some big celebrations a little bit later in the year, so no doubt we'll be talking about that when the time comes.
Seven's investing in a UK production company, Slim Film and Television. These guys are award winners.
Yeah, look, they haven't been terribly prolific yet. They've done a TV movie.
What are they winning awards for?
Well, they've got the personnel there who are award winners, I think, is possibly the link. But they've got some people there who have really good track records, so they'll be building up some stuff. And look, this is a real growth area from Seven. We had Tim Warner on a couple of weeks ago. He talked about their building their revenues with their investment in production companies in the US, in the UK. So this is just building on that success they've had there, and they want to fast track some of that too, because I think they can really build those dollars there.
And Hamish and Andy, we're keeping a watch on them. They're going to be quizzed.
Yeah, look, they're going to be quizzed at the commercial radio conference. It's not for the radio industry, it's a big deal, right? Because the fact that they're going to turn up there, they're going to be questioned about their radio's career, is quite significant, because a lot of people in competition with Southern Cross or Stereo are hoping Hamish and Andy won't continue, because they've got a new deal with Nine for a television series next year. And the speculation is they'll drop radio. They've pulled out of radio in the past. But I think this signals that, look, no, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay signed with Southern Cross or Stereo. Doing exactly what is not exactly clear, but I think it'll probably be all revealed in the next few weeks when they make this appearance. Speaking
of reveals, ARIA revealing 30th anniversary celebrations.
Yeah, look, the annual award show, it's the biggest award show for the Australian music industry, probably the only significant one. It's back on Network 10 this year. Mark Fennessy is going to be, I think, the creative director is his title, so from Shine Endemol. So it should be a really big deal this year. Dennis Hanlon from Sony's the chairman of the music industry group. Dan Rosen, the head of ARIA, they both revealed the details this week, and there'll be like another ARIA Music Week, and they're going to really make some noise, the fact that it's the 30th anniversary. Fairfax
Launching subscriber-only sites for the SMH and the Age. I was actually talking to a few people about this last night.
Okay.
They love it.
Yeah.
Really like it.
Yeah, and again,
the sort of clickbait sort of stuff that you can see on the main.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it gives you a deeper engagement with the news, I think. And Fairfax is, best journalists, and there's exclusive content. And I guess it's a little bit what Jerry was talking to us about, the really engaging with your best customers and making sure you keep them happy.
And the Kennedy Awards, New South Wales Journalism were on. What was it, Friday?
Yeah, well, it was the same night as the News Awards, ironically, in Sydney. So it was a real logjam of media awards that night. You had Robert Thompson, the guest at one of the others, Col Allen, a former News Corp executive, a guest at the other one at the News Awards. Adele Ferguson won the big Journalist of the Year award. The Kennedy Awards are for New South Wales journalism. But gee, Adele Ferguson, hasn't she had a good few years?
Unbelievable.
She reports for Fairfax. She crops up on Four Corners. I think she won the Gold Walkley in 2014. She won a Business Award last year. If you're in journalism, you think, look, she's got enough already, though, for a little while.
And our very own political editor, David Spears, as well, are picking up an award. Let's move on quickly. It's running out of time to get to some of the ratings for week 33. We'll start with free-to-air ratings and... Well, 7 doing well. I mean, we'll flick over to the
Olympic Games,
killing it. I mean, on the second page, they dominate.
Yeah, look, this is the first week of the Olympic Awards. And look, if you pay that much money for the rights, you'd be pretty disappointed if they didn't flood the top 10. But they've certainly done well. We might see next week the ratings dip a little bit in week 2.
No swimming.
Certainly dynamite. Yeah, absolutely. No medals.
No medal. Well, that's right. Yeah. Might as well finish the Olympics now. Subscription television. How are we looking?
It's full of NRL, the sport.
Wow.
5 top items, including the between show game on a Sunday hosted by Matt Shervington for Fox Sports. So 5 NRLs there. The AFL really seemed to take a little bit of a hit from the Olympics that the NRL didn't experience as much.
And the non-sport, I've got to say, Kettering incident. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if you've watched the last episode yet. I don't want to give spoilers for people who haven't, but it's fascinating viewing.
It's a cracker.
Foxtel have been talking about a possible season 2.
Oh, let's hope so.
So, it was very engaging TV, wasn't it?
And look, almost out of time, but Australian Survivor. So polarising friends of mine, some who just have watched every single US series, love it. No interest in this one, where
Really?
other friends who have never seen an episode of it, really keen on watching an Australian version.
Yeah, I think because when the brand's been rolled out here before, it hasn't lived up to the expectations people have had if they've watched the US one. I think people who... And the formula's easy to understand, isn't it? Yeah. Everyone goes there, there's going to be one person left to win a big load of cash. But I think you should give it a go, because I think the production values on this Australian version from what we've seen so far are pretty good.
Well, looking at the promos, yeah, it looks
yeah, again, that's
brilliant production
Mark and
values.
Fantasy, it's Endemol Shine, you know, they spend a lot of money, Network 10, on making sure they get this right. Jonathan LaPali as the host. So, I mean, it looks pretty good, and I'll certainly think, I think a lot of people will be interested to see how it goes.
Fantastic stuff. James Manning, great to have you on as always. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
That's it for this week's edition of Media Week. Thanks very much for watching.